This is another clause out of the Act, out of the Claim of Right Act 1689, right? This is very, very interesting. It says, this is 28, I think. But this provision here, it says, right, that by giving gifts and grants for extracting money without consent of Parliament, but of conventions of estates. I know that there are certain clauses in the Professor Karen Bowie's paper on the customary to constitutional right, collective petitioning, and the right to petition in Scotland before the Union of 1707. It talks about this to do with, doing certain things with land, but the clause says it's to do with giving gifts and grants and using gifts to extract money from people without the consent of Parliament, right? But it's to do with land and estates. This could be a bit of a tight squeeze, but a principle that fits this, which I want to raise and draw attention to, and something which I'm really actually concerned about at the moment, is these platforms like Mark Zuckerberg, mainly Mark Zuckerberg, Google, particularly YouTube, all of the, basically, like on the Lost Boys, when, they say, never invite a vampire into your house, it renders you powerless or whatever. The whole kind of like, that kind of paradigm, or that sort of, that ideology. I've been getting really, really, really annoyed lately with, kind of like forcing us to accept all these terms and conditions and adverts when a lot of them are harmful to us. You see what they do. I mean, how, like when you're just, sat using your mobile phone, right? When you're sat using your mobile phone, there are all these things happening to us now, like, I'm getting all these adverts popping up, and sometimes I can block it, other times I can't, but you usually have to watch it through once. And it's really hindering your use of the device and the apps that used to be user-friendly, but they're not user-friendly now unless you pay up. And it actually affects the time in your house, the amount of time you've got to do other things while you're in your house, slowing you down or distracting your attention. And then there's all the spam and other things. And what their premise and legal base, how they do it is like, it's free to go on YouTube. If you go to a library or a public library or somewhere like that, you can, if you go to a public library and they've got free internet there, or if you go into any free service, you can, any member of the public can go on YouTube without logging in. It's public access, right? But the thing with when you've got accounts and things like this, and you're uploading videos and you're just using the apps, it's all free. Whenever you buy a mobile phone now, right? The thing is, you buy the phone, you've bought the phone, right? You buy it, and you're paying for the connection. Now, back in the 1960s and 70s, when you had a telephone, you pay for that telephone, and you've paid for it, and you can call who you want, right? You can pick the phone up, you make a call, and you pay for the connection and for the calls, right? There's no other hidden extras, They don't make you, listen to things or adverts or promo or whatever, right? But the thing is, once David Cameron sold off all these services, now we're getting all this spam, which is interfering with our own time and our own lives. The thing is, it's like, you must say never look a gift horse in the mouth. They give you these apps, which are free, right? They say, oh, it's free, this lovely app, it's free, right? You've already paid for the mobile phone. You've already paid for a connection from your phone company, right? You're paying for this. You're paying for the phone and all the internet connection. But what you end up is they give you all these nice free gifts. So why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? Why don't you have this app? But then what happens is it ends up being a real pain and hindrance. It ends up actually literally taking over your time and your life, having to watch these ads unless you pay more. But you've already paid for the phone and you've already paid for the connection, right? And I think that, you're sat there and you think, how are they forcing us? How do they manage to get us to have to agree to this, right? Well, what they do is accept terms. What they do is, we're giving you all these free things, and then as you're doing it, you're accepting all their terms. Accept our terms, right? This is not the law of England. This is not like, don't punch anyone in the face, or, don't break into a car, or don't steal bread, or whatever. The laws of England that we walk, normal. Someone's giving you something, right? A free gift. But there's a catch. It's always like, agree, consent. Now, when you're also browsing websites now, they had all these accept cookies thing. Accept the cookies, which I argued was psychological and not really good for his health and the whole diet, taking everything into consideration with the industrial military complex and all his health that the doctors are now openly talking about, like John Campbell and Stenekberg and other doctors, right? And RFK. So it's always consent. So what they're doing is all these accept cookies, and they've also got consent or accept. What's happening is you've got a phone, you pay for it, and you buy it, and that's yours, and you pay for a service like when you used to just pay for your phone line. But these people, these entities, these companies are literally getting you to, they're making up a load of things that aren't the law of England. It's not legislation passed by the Parliament. It's not past legislation by the Parliament. They're literally like making things up and putting them into what they call their policy. You will agree. All it is at the end of the day is agreeing. Now, if you were out in the streets, right, and you were walking down the road, and then a guy walked past and he said, "Consent, sir. Cross over the road. Consent to my will. Consent. Consent to my will, sir. Cross the road to the other side. Don't come near me." Or, "Bow to me, sir. Tip your hat when you walk past me. Consent." Or, "Sir, you will give me 5 shillings to pass," right? Like when they used to have bridges, you pay a tax. Like most of the roads are taxed and covered by taxes anyway, but sometimes like in Lincolnshire or somewhere like that, they might have like a toll bridge, that's privately owned, "Sir, this is my private bridge. You may not cross. Give me 5 guineas or you may not cross. Consent." Right? Well, if you don't consent and you don't cross the bridge, but apparently it's his private bridge, right? But if it wasn't his private land or bridge, then, we won't be able to cross it. What these people are doing they're literally having their will and their way with you, and they're getting you to literally agree to this. Literally saying, "Do as I say. Agree, sir. Agree to my terms. My terms. These are my terms." And they're just reeling them off whenever they want now, right? If you were just, Joe Bloggs walking down the road and someone said, "Sir, consent to my terms. You will spin around 3 times, bow to me, cock your leg, and then sing me 3 songs. Consent, sir. Consent now." You would just tell him to, get lost. You'd say, "Shut up." But what they're doing is they're saying, "Oh, do you want this gift? Do you want this? Do you want this free nice thing, this gift, this toy?" You've already paid for your phone. You've already paid for the connection and the data and the device. You've paid for that, right? You paid for it. Like you pay for your phone line. You pick your phone up when you want, ring someone, talk to them for when you want, and then put it down. But now, we're being hijacked by these terms, and they are making us consent to all manner of things. Sir, wait for 5 seconds before you watch this video. Sir, watch 3 adverts. Consent to our terms. You upload all your videos to YouTube. Oh, sir, I have removed all of your videos and taken your channel down. Why? Oh, you didn't comply with my terms. You consented. Well, actually, I'm doing this for a petition. You can't take away my rights, I've got immunity and so forth. They are... What it comes down to is they're making you agree now to all manner of things to be able to impose all manner of influences, waiting times, influencer things, and all manner of things. And how they get you to literally agree, consent to their will is with a gift. Have a gift. But notice, their policies, their terms and conditions aren't acts of Parliament. They haven't been passed by Parliament. They are not acts of Parliament, and they are not the law of England. Yet, they're getting you to consent and agree to all these rules mainly by using a gift. Oh, have this, but, if you come on my website, consent. It's almost like, coming to my house, but, you agree by house rules or whatever and so forth. But usually, the origin and the purpose of policies is usually it reflects the law. It reiterates the law, right? Because a lot of laws mainly only apply in public, but not in private. I think some of the smoking indoors laws, in Parliament you can smoke, but in public places now you can't smoke. Apparently, things like racism, I think that the racist clause in discrimination applies in public. But as far as I read in the legislation, it didn't apply in a private house, right? So certain private houses were actually, in fact, exempt from certain laws. But the thing is, there are certain laws that do apply in private companies and businesses and in private houses the other way around, no matter where you are. And some of those rights are medical rights. For example, if you're injured or hurt, people, the ambulance has got a right to access the private property and so forth. And another is political, I believe political rights because of your immunity, because you can't be prosecuted and so forth. Now, you get onto these, in a way you can bring in those tunnellers who have just been prosecuted by Max Hill again, went after Angela Ditchfield, even though he completely ignored an entire area of law. And now, apparently they've retried these tunnellers, but they pleaded guilty. I didn't know that I wasn't too up to date with the tunnellers case that they'd actually been acquitted. But now, it perfectly timed. I think they must have been listening into us and timed it because they knew we were getting a strong case for all the painting and so forth. But there's a certain thing, HSWA, what service of notices, where if it's an official document, a legal document like a petition, where there's a requirement to serve a notice on the public, like court documents or government documents or legal, if you bring in legal proceedings, there's a right to serve notice or a legal requirement to serve notice. A petition has a legal requirement to serve notice. And a petition can also be a representation as well as an advertisement. So, that's why I just use the Under Siege scene, like when she comes out of a birthday cake, like you could hire a stripper, to go into a premises. It's a message. When you are, you send a person to send a message. They are the message. Like, you can send a stripper or a birthday singer to a private company for they go into the private premises and deliver the message when they're inside the private premises. Like if they sing a birthday song, you can buy that service. But on Under Siege, in the film, they've got a woman needing a birthday cake they snuck in to deliver to the captain, and she pops out the birthday cake, with her breasts out. And also I was thinking of Murdering Successful when he's like, how do you get a ship in a bottle? It's delivered, folded down, and you open it out. How do you get a ship in a bottle? So there is some, with petitioning and delivering a representation onto private property, there is a right of access to deliver that representation, and it can be an advertisement, and definitely it was all getting broadcast and so forth on television for protecting that Euxton Gardens and so forth. I wanted to mention that. And so there is that. Really, that's what, they're doing with these gifts, that they're getting to accept all these YouTube apps and Facebook apps and these apps and that apps, but, oh no, accept the terms and conditions, accept the advert. Well, the thing is, right, you can just, you can basically, just not install the app, right? But a lot of these things are addictive, like the foods, you accept the food, but it's got all the excess calories in it. With YouTube and Facebook, when you read the YouTube and Facebook have got these policies for like sexual content or severe violations. They're only meant to be for harmful acts, dangerous acts, or illegal acts. Only they can be a severe policy violation, not just sexual content. That's a normal strike, not a severe content policy violation. That's what they've done to me. They actually are not abiding by the policy. They're just making excuses up about the policy. In fact, YouTube admitted that one of the strikes against me was completely wrong and done in error. But yeah, I ain't had it corrected yet. YouTube has got some policy clauses, but they're not British legislation. It's not a completely private platform. You can watch that platform and access it logged out without an account and from a public library or any public place that has free internet access, right? So it's public access. The policy on YouTube says that it will comply with all UK legislation and law and American federal and state law and foreign laws. So it's saying that it will abide by the law, right? It will comply with the law. Now, so what are the laws? Well, the laws are like this law here, this Claim of Right Act 1989. Many clauses in this act say that you can't be prosecuted if you're petitioning the government, and you can't be jailed and so forth and punished. That's the law. So if you're agreeing to abide by what the law is, then you can't imprison or punish people for their petitioning. And same with the 1688 Bill of Rights. So if you're having a policy that says you'll agree with the law, then you will uphold what the law is, and anyone who is in your private property they're allowed to have those legal rights, right? Because it's the law, and you have to abide with it. So if it was smoking, the law is that if it's private, a private house, if it's a private house, you can smoke inside. But in public places, certain public, businesses and stuff like that, you can, depending on how you have it and so forth. But the certain rights they can't take away. And because all prosecutions and commitments being, held to a commitment, it is illegal. The policies, they can't hold the policies on you. The Advertising Standards Agency is supposed to intervene. They aren't allowed to take legal action against political campaigns and political adverts because they're protected. But there are some things that the Advertising Standards can do when private places that run ads are unlawfully preventing you from having an advert. Because in America, they've got 5013C, illegal campaign intervention, and also YouTube's own policy on election misinformation and election policies and democratic policy. They reiterate the same laws are what are in 5013C for non-profit companies, but they say that, oh yeah, those laws apply to everyone on YouTube, right? So they're saying that they apply to companies and businesses, which apply to YouTube as well, right? So you can go into private property to deliver a notice, the service of notices as well, or attach it to the property, which I guess you could paint on the outside of the building, really, or deliver a letter. Or you can actually go, when you're in the garden or certain parts of the property, the land, to deliver a legal notice, which is required to be delivered by law, and a petition is required to be delivered by law. So the Euxton Garden tunnellers have got rights in that area, But what I'm thinking, though, is this. The reason I wanted to bring up this clause of the Act, it's talking about giving gifts, though, this. When you're delivering a notice that's legally required to be delivered, and also I'll just say towards Euxton Gardens, that they were doing the reason they were trespassing or entering, the private property was in order to protect some land which they were actively campaigning to the government to cease and desist with their actions, protect woodland. If you can't protect something and it's in the process of being destructed, it's impossible to save it. If you've got a legal case and there's a chance that you can save it by signature and by case, it's the potential to save it. So I believe that there is a right, purely on the basis of the line only, purely on the basis of the line of the legislation, that it can't be prosecuted. You can, use that legislation to protect it while you're pursuing your case, or else otherwise there's nothing left to protect. And I would say that is in effect for the HS2 woodland, all these woodlands that they're all trying to protect. But yet Boris Johnson was paying the police to move them off. The police aren't allowed to use charges and arrests. They can mediate between parties, but the police aren't a political tool, and that's why Max Hill has broken the law, because he's been trying to use the CPS on behalf of the police chiefs and himself, because he didn't like the things that these people were doing, and they were politically opposed. The CPS using our prosecution services as their own personal political tool in their own campaign, which is illegal. You can't do it. They just have to use site management and diplomats, negotiators, like they do with the army. There's very serious tanks worth billions, and aircraft carriers and fighter planes. They send diplomats over in the war. They'll have to use diplomats and negotiators, Rishi Sunak, and use the police to manage the sites. You can't use arrests and prosecutions. It's not allowed. It's not Max Hill's fight. If he wants to get the law changed, like, Rishi Sunak and Priti Patel and Suella Braverman have been claiming to do, whereas I'm not too sure whether they can change the law on it, because that law can't be undone. Congress shall make no law, then surely Parliament can make no law. It's not for the CPS. It's none of the CPS's business to do with delivering and serving notices, however these advertisements are represented. And when there's a case to protect something, you've got a right to protect it by whatever means necessary if the other party are not ceasing and desisting while that case is still ongoing, collecting signatures, being pursued. I think they had a right under Euxton Gardens just purely on the baseline of the right to petition protection without being prosecuted. Although now Max Hill has gone and got them reconvicted, but they all pleaded guilty, which I don't know why. You see, that's going into somewhere, gaining access to deliver. Also, it was all being broadcast, and they were broadcasted from the tunnels. And really, it was a representation. It not only was it purely for protecting protecting those places in any way they could, while they were trying to oppose the project. Also, they were delivering a message advertising the campaign. It was covered by the news, and Extinction Rebellion were broadcasting it specifically, explicitly advertising it. So, they were going on there to serve notices. So I think it's covered by the service of notices for going on the private land, which means that you can't be prosecuted for trespassing. It's a similar principle to that, birthday, like a singing telegram, but it's not just a singing telegrams for entertainment or a birthday. There's a legal requirement to serve notice to the public. When it's a petition, there's a legal requirement to do it. It's like legal notices and so forth. So you can do it, I think. And they can't be prosecuted. I don't know why. Max Hill and the CPS and the police must have been tapping my phone or hacking my internet and watching what I was up to, seeing that I got a strong case for Angela Ditchfield and for the advertisements, because someone messed around with the lawyer that's been helping me. Someone hacked into Fibersite and took their account down, I think, and they had to have a new account, make a new account and get in contact with me again. Someone were messing with it. So I think they've done it with YouTube, taking down my channel. And just make it look like Neil Mohan's messing around with his smileys and his chat things. I think they've been hacking his communications, this 77 Brigade Battalion. If Max Hill has been, Max Hill has been ignoring an entire acts of law, which was specifically and explicitly for this. Yeah, he's ignored their existence so he can get a conviction. He wanted to prosecute for criminal damage. It wasn't criminal damage. He wanted to get him convicted after they've also been acquitted by the courts as well, which was insane. It's just wrong. He lied in public office and pretended an entire act didn't exist. 2 acts. And then now, when this is really serious stuff, he'd always said he was stepping down in March. I've been pursuing a very, very strong legal documents from a lawyer, on the cheap though, but she's good. She's a PhD with a master's degree. It's as good as anything this Professor Karen Bowie's done. I've submitted that to the courts in complaint and to the Office of Judicial Investigations. And perfectly timed, when I post on Jonathan M. Fuller's page, these legal documents so everyone can know about them, they've just gone and done this with the Euxton Gardens. After as well, I wish I'd never said this, but I was saying that the Euxton Gardens action was my favourite action. It was the best one. And I didn't know that those 6 people had been acquitted, actually, or I'd forgotten. And now they've gone after those. It's almost like a chess game. And oddly enough, we got this strange crank phone call. Sounded like it was from a bank, a fake bank, trying to get my mum to give details over the other day. And we traced the number, and it says a chess club somewhere in Surrey. Chess clubs in Surrey don't have automated messages that ring you up that sound like a bank, and there was no other telephone number that had rung. Someone's messing around. Someone's playing chess games with us. And this is what Max Hill's doing. They're playing games. The government and the CPS and the courts, they're playing games. Why did those courts acquit some of these people in the first place if these justices, magistrates thought it was so bad? Why is Max Hill, when a court has acquitted someone, why is Max Hill going after them? He is using our prosecution as his own personal political campaign, as if it's his own funded political party like Labour. And then we find out Keir Starmer, now Keir Starmer's not just using the CPS as his own personal party, he's taking control of the Labour Party for his own personal ends and means, The police chiefs, they've got issues, Sir Peter Fahey, using the police with that weird Wallasey incident with the red pickup truck, and the officer who got knocked down mysteriously. I won't be surprised if he's on witness protection somewhere with a new identity. Exactly when I put the advert in the newspaper for the Manchester Evening News, if it even was in there, I didn't manage to get a copy of it, but I booked it with the advertisement. So there is. They're withholding my campaign channel from me as well, because they don't want me. They're forcing me to put it on my other channel, which I don't want to do. I'm being manipulated now. So I don't think these Euxton tunnellers should have been prosecuted on the basis of requirement to deliver a notice, which you can deliver it onto private property, and it can be an advertisement, a representation, which was being broadcast. Also, the underlying baseline fundamental right of the law that you can't be prosecuted, and if you're not protecting something, there won't be anything left to protect. So if you're going to use that immunity for something, then use it for that. And there is immunity. It says it in this act, which we're going to get on to. But I mainly wanted to raise this clause that we're looking at now on this page. I didn't really want to go into all that Euxton Garden business, but it's comparable, because what they're doing is they're coming onto our phone you've got a mobile phone and you've got a contract, and, it's like, in the 1970s or 80s, you used to pay your phone bill. It's your phone. People can ring you on it, and you can ring people. But what they're doing, it's not just like they're telephoning you, they're ringing you, do you want to buy some widgets or whatever, like commercial advertising. There was never an when you used to buy a telephone, right, a landline, and you buy it and pay for it, there was no, they didn't make you agree to, accepting, if some, usually a company, it was rare when companies would telephone you. I mean, why does a shoemaker need to ring people up randomly to see if they want the shoes doing, If you were looking for a service, you call them, usually. You're looking for their number in the yellow pages, right? This whole looking for customers thing, you're meant to do that when you're petitioning, because it's a requirement. In fact, the petitions website on Parliament says share this on YouTube, share this on Twitter, share this on social media. Although they'll probably have to change it from Twitter to X now. They ask you because through service of notices, there's a legal requirement to deliver the message. There's a legal requirement to deliver those messages, and that includes, delivering to private people and private property, going up someone's. You can deliver a letter anyway to someone, post it through their letterbox, unless you've got a court order, like Alex Belfield, has got a court order that he can't contact people, but they can't do that with the right to petition. Because there's a legal requirement to serve on everyone, including YouTube, and it's partially public access anyway. But if it's a private website, you've got the right to go on there anyway to serve notice to the public, which is like the right to publish in a newspaper, which is why you've got 501(c), illegal campaign intervention, prevents illegal campaign intervention. This is the same as that. And that's the next document that I need to get some help working on with YouTube to get my channel restored, because they say they will comply with the law and legislation, but yet they're making you agree to these policies which aren't the law, right? Now, when it comes to your mobile phone and Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg and Google and all these websites that are saying consent, they won't let you go on there until you consent now. In the year 2000, in the early days of the internet, there was, people just put a website up, come and have a look at it. There wasn't all this consenting business. Now they're making you consent to do whatever they want to you. And that's why I think I wanted to call the title of this video, possible legal case against Mark Zuckerberg and Google, and possibly Elon Musk. Because what they're doing is they're giving you gifts, right? They're giving you a free app. Because a lot of the time when you buy your mobile phone, right, what happens when you turn it on? You'll find that there are all these things pre-installed on it. But you don't have to actually use it, create an account. But Google's already on there. YouTube have got an app there, Now, a lot of the time when you go to the mobile phone store, you get your mobile phone and you turn it on. These apps are actually already installed on there because they've done a deal. They've done a deal with the mobile phone company. And it's already on there, just waiting to be used. So it's already got into your house and onto your phone, right? Like the birthday cake surprise, like the woman popping out of a birthday cake, or the singing telegram, But they're commercial. Let's get this straight. YouTube and Facebook and all these companies, they are commercial. They aren't a political endeavour. It's not a campaign for an election, and it's not a petition that requires delivery of legal documents, right? But yet, how it's turned out now, with all their policies and their bossing us around and their, agree to consent to these policies, and then they're just deleting videos, removing things, making you consent to this, watch this for 5 minutes, watch that for 5 minutes, answer these questions, do this, do that. We end up turning into their kind of like boot boys, slaves. It's same like going down the street. If you're just minding your business going down the street, and then some stranger just says, "Sir, consent to my terms," and you're like, "Who the hell's this?" "Consent to my terms, sir, now, to my will." I mean, even if he's asking you to sign a petition, at least if he just asks you if you'll sign it, I mean, he might give a representation or whatever, and he might end up stretching, the law and the legislation. But, at the end of the day, this is what we're on to with Extinction Rebellion, when if they're writing on buildings, and it does say in the law that it can be attached to the building and delivered to the building, and it does say that an advertisement and notice can be in class C pin. If you're delivering it to an entire apartment block of like 500 flats, like in Ireland. You see, the thing is, that's a very important political right, where you've got a right to deliver a message on service of notices, and it's for getting laws made or changed. In Ireland, these big companies, these big corporations have been forcing the entire Irish government and public to make laws where if they're building 400 homes, they automatically get planning permission, and you don't even have a right to make an observation on it unless you give over 20 euros. That's taking away all your objection rights. It's basically making that companies can do what they want. It's actually, what it's doing is trying to say that corporate money-making businesses have got more importance than politics, than lawmaking, which is making and changing the laws that regulate them, or whether the local people even want them, the council, to approve what they're doing there politically. What we've actually ended up doing is the companies and businesses have actually ended up making themselves as if they are the ultimate. Their business and corporate actions are more important than anything. Like Mark Zuckerberg, like he's the most important thing on the face of the planet. Facebook. Oh, we might have removed some things which could have been debatable. No, Mark, you removed service of notices which were a legal requirement to be delivered, and you've obstructed us delivering frequency of messages through Messenger because we might have been successful. This is it. So this clause here really stood out to me. This by giving of gifts and extracting money without the consent of Parliament. Well, what it's doing is consent of Parliament is enacted laws that are enacted, right? But the thing is, the companies, the policies, the platforms, the apps have to comply with the law. They comply with the law, but they're going further than the law because they're making their own rules up, which aren't enacted laws, right? Not consent of Parliament. Like, on YouTube, they're giving a lot of stuff that you can't upload, but it's not illegal, right? It's not illegal. It's not against the law. Parliament have not said that, you can't do it. In fact, they've said that you can do it. You've got consent to do it. But what these platforms are doing are that they're saying, install our apps, as if it's like a free gift. Oh, this is great. You can watch all these videos on YouTube, but install the app for free. But they're extracting money. They are actually extracting not only money, but time. They're extracting your time and your attention, In fact, actually, they're getting you to extract money from it. They're getting you to extract money. But if you were getting charges for it, extracting money. But the principle is here. Gifts and grants, but extracting money. Well, what these gifts that they're doing, mainly when Google are doing, is they're extracting your time, and they're blocking you. It's not user friendly. They're obstructing and blocking your progress. And they're only commercial, they're not even political, you know? And this is what the thing with HS2 Rebellion and Extinction Rebellion are doing. They're using political rights where there's a legal requirement to serve notice on the public and advertisements and representations. But the public are complaining that they're being slowed down or delayed, or they're late for work, or they're doing slow marches in the street, or they're hindering the progress of the construction when there's an active campaign to try and get the government to halt the construction project, right? Or protect the trees. There is a legal right to service of notices. There's a legal requirement to deliver a message to the public and make a representation or advertisement. And I think that, you know, there's a legal right to, you know, try and slow down the progress of the development or protect it from the assets from being destroyed while, you know, the campaign is still active, you know. And there shouldn't be arrests, there shouldn't be prosecutions. It says in this law that people can't be imprisoned. One of the other acts in here, you know. People can't be imprisoned. Can't be imprisoned, and prosecutions are illegal. And this is a claim of right, you know. So I strongly believe that what's happened is that this Max Hill guy, these people, these police officers, and this Max Hill and people like this, they really have lied in public office, and they have severely broken the law. They've ignored entire acts of law, and they're using the public services as their own personal campaign, like the police chiefs against these protesters because they don't like it, and the MPs, when there's actually a legal right to these advertisements and promotions, and even without being prosecuted, and even, you know, put a stop to what they're doing while they've got a case for it. Now, what they do overseas is, before we blow any country to smithereens with our tanks, before we kill people, before we shoot them with our live ammunition and soldiers or bombs, and before we send fighter planes in or navy ships to kill them, we send a diplomat in. Because our taxpayers' money has been spent on multi-million-pound tanks in order to kill and blow up property in someone else's democracy if they don't do what we want. Effectively, and there's loads of laws that Tony Blair is supposed to have broken for warfare, but theoretically that's what war is. You're in another country breaking the law of that country to get what you want. So the petition right for prosecution, effectively, once you're in a political campaign, you're effectively like a soldier in a civil war in your own country with immunity from being liable, at least from it's not for the CPS or police to get involved. I think they should send diplomats to mediate with these people, to negotiate, or just, you know, police to site management. That's what I think. I'm sure I'm getting deja vu now. Max Hill completely ignored and undermined the entire Town and Country Planning Act on purpose, and he already said he was stepping down in March. This person needs prosecution against him. He needs to be tried, because he's trying and succeeding against people who he can't. He's trying and succeeding, even though they're actually acquitted. He's even trying harder. Some of these people were acquitted by courts, and what he's doing is not just trying them illegally, he's trying harder, and then he's succeeding. And I don't know why that is. He's meant to have the trust of the public, you know, and that's what the law is. The law says that prosecutions aren't to be used, which means that the Crown Prosecution Service has no place or business. What he should be doing is prosecuting these places, you know, for coercing people into policies and consenting to things, you know, that they're extracting their time and attention and money. Well, time is money. The thing is, if you've got a business, I'm not working at the moment, but if you've got a business and you're using YouTube in your business, right, but you don't want to pay to go ad free, but they give you the ad, you know, and you're researching something for a company, and you're having to sit through these adverts, and you're getting, you know, the company's paying you so much per hour. That's extracting monies, because it's using up the money of the company and the employment of the money for the ad time, and other hindrances. So he's actually extracting money from other businesses. YouTube and Google are taking up the time of, although usually most businesses pay to go ad free, but most of the time you've paid for the phone, you've paid for the connection. And you know, they're giving you these additional candy things, these additional apps. They want you to use them, but there's always a catch. And it ends up actually, I think that it's this clause in this old law, the principle it expresses that is illegal. I see that principle and expression in what Mark Zuckerberg and Google are doing to us. They're offering gifts and granting these apps in order to extract our time from us, and spam us with adverts. To, you know, they're putting all these videos, then join the inner circle, then join the club, then donate. You know, then you know, it's extracting more and more money, and then they're also promoting all the T-shirts and things. I know that when you buy, you know, the BBC, you know, didn't have adverts on because you're paying for the license fee. Like, you know, you pay for your telephone line, you're not getting, you know, if you pay for BT in, you know, 1970, you're not getting all these adverts. You pay for the phone line, you pay for the BBC, you don't get all the commercial ads, right? This is to do with the license fee as well. But, you know, you're getting all this spam and ads with the television. It's been the whole way through. But you do pay, you know, to get television, you know, and so forth. There are payments for your connection when it comes to Sky. So I'd really like to explore whether or not, you know, these free apps are getting you to consent to things, their own policies, which really aren't the law of England, and they're getting you to agree to things on the basis that the policies. Why do these private clubs have policies? To remind you of the law, like, you know, we will not accept no arguments or fighting in these premises, you know, so forth. Now, some companies like cricket clubs, you know, they've got policies for the uniform, you know, the cricket uniform and all things like that, you know, and the football clubs, you know, you have to wear the football kit and things like that, consent to, you know, I don't know whether that's extracting money or not, making you, you know, join a football club and then you've got to buy all the kit further. I don't know. But there's something. It's not just like it was in a normal club with a membership, because usually if it's a private club, you have to join, don't you? It's like a private club and you have to join. So you're kind of joining a private club anyway. But when it's like, if it's like a public access, a public club, you know, I don't know whether if it's free, if it's a free service or something. Usually if it's a free service, they provide everything that you need, right? So like if they're saying that, you know, that if the local council have got a massive chess game in the town centre, you know, like outside the library, those huge chess figures, you know, it's free. They don't say there's a free chess game on put on by the council, or huge chess figures, but you have to pay. Well, it's not free if you have to pay, you know. You know, if the council are having a free ice skating arena for Christmas fair, when they say free, then surely they include the ice skates free rental. The use of them is free, and the supervisor's free, and everything's free. You know, all the things there are free. You know, if they say, you know, if a company says there's free temping bowling, you know, you'd have to pay for it. But the thing with these mobile phones is, you know, they give you these free apps, but, you know, there's so many things to consent to that by the time you're finished, they're literally, not only stealing and taking your content, material and videos when they want to, and you might not have spare copies of them, but they're actually denying you your political rights, and that's where the Advertising Standards Agency is meant to come in, I think, and they're not doing. And I think that some of these protesters have got the right to deliver in service of notices, under the same. It's almost like the singing telegram or the girl popping out the birthday cake, but it carries legal right. Those don't. They're just entertainment. And this is where the newspapers have, really stamped out all these petitions and things that you should really be able to get free petitions in the newspapers and so forth. But they erased those from all the free ads, and from it ended up being birthday celebrations and university graduations or deaths, obituaries and so forth. And they kind of stamped out all the free petitions from there. Once all the newspapers were taken over by a certain service. There's definitely something in this that I recognise that is going on, and it's to do with all this consent, getting you to consent to things that are taking your time, and time's money if you've got other things to do, if you've got to catch a bus, or if you've got things, places to go. That Mark Zuckerberg and Google are getting you to consent to so many things now. And it's the word consent. The worse than getting cookies drilled into you. Accept cookies, accept their foods. Oh, why don't you buy these buns? Why don't you buy this sandwich with all excess calories in? Consent. You're consenting to eat these foods, but they've got the hidden added additives and calories in that are actually ending up an investment into your vest, into your killing all your gut bacteria and on all the things what JFK is talking about and Dr. John Campbell and so forth. This is what they're doing. It's bearing gifts that aren't necessarily good for you. But it highlights that there is a right politically. But what these private companies and organisations are doing, they're trying to take away those political rights when they don't have the right to take away the political right, when there's a legal requirement to deliver service of notices and so forth. Well, I know the standard way is just by a normal letter or whatsoever, but when it comes to a lot of these political actions, a lot of these campaigning and activists are saying that they've tried other means and methods, but it hasn't worked. So in order to publicise, to get more people to support it, they were doing actions similar to this Ukes and Gans. The only charge that they brought was trespassing. Out of all, from all what went on with those Euxine Gardens actions, I can't believe these charges are just trespass, because all trespass is going on people's property, whether it's aggravated or not. There's a right service of notices to go on public property, and if you're going to deliver an advertisement to the public property regarding it or about it, because let's get this clear. Those campaigns were about protecting the Euxine Gardens land and the assets of the trees and stuff from HS2. So it was about the property. That were, not only were they delivering service of notices going on to private property and delivering a message and advertisement, also that was the site that they were actually trying to protect, what the campaign was about, what they were campaigning about, and the action. I think all this is covered in the law and right down just straight to the right to petition protection. And that is the reason why it's codified into these town and country planning acts. The right to petition immunity doesn't exist because of those acts. Those acts exist because of that underlying fundamental law. They have to be codified. The reason that those acts are codified and have to be enacted is because they have to, because that is what the underlying law is. So they're shaped to accommodate for that. And that's what Max Hill can't come to terms with. And that's the same for even the police, driving in the police, when they're pursuing people for a crime. How fast can you go over the speed limit? Well, it didn't say. If the car will do 200 mile an hour, it can do it. How fast can the police car go? It doesn't say, the police officer can exceed the speed limit by 10%, 20% or so forth. He can go as fast as he wants. And unfortunately, that's what Max Hill's doing with these prosecutions. Even though these people were acquitted. That's what, on some of these, not all of them were acquitted, some of them, which is ridiculous. Max Hill is beyond an officer who's driving at 300 mile an hour in a police car. He's purposefully intended to try to deceive us and ignore two acts of law, which were the principal and primary acts relevant to the charge. He pretended they didn't exist, and instead he wanted a conviction of criminal damage, and he attempted to get people convicted, which didn't succeed. And then, not content with that, personally, Max Hill directed them to go to the High Court to get a conviction using our public services. It's multiple people. And then, when we've got a very strong legal case which shows that he is beyond doubts a criminal, he went and tried with other offences. These tunnellers, HS2 tunnellers, even worse. He's fighting when it says that he doesn't have a right. The prosecution do not have a right to engage with or have any associations whatsoever with campaign action as to government. None. It's none of their business at all whatsoever. None. And he cannot bear that or stand it and doesn't like it. And instead of himself on a weekend going outside the Royal Courts of Justice and campaigning with a banner stood next to Jonathan N. Fuller with all the Crown prosecutors, they could have made banners, they could have written petitions, they probably have been lobbying the government. You know, if that's not enough, they've got all these big companies, yet they won't use the prosecution services to prosecute these food companies who are harming our health when there's evidence for it now. Yet these food companies and giants are prosecuting our government in courts for making and changing laws which affect their profits. Where are our actions against these companies for affecting our health, strategically planned? Never mind affecting profits, affecting our health. Why isn't the government using the NHS to sue these companies? Why aren't the CPS prosecuting them? And I say because Max Hill and Keir Starmer and these people are on the side of these companies. In fact, they are part of the industrial military complex. And this is why they're criminal. This is why this man is not actually trying to help the public and save the public's health. He certainly isn't protecting the public's rights. He is ignoring the existence of law completely and totally with the police chiefs. These are worse than war criminals, because at least when you're in another country, you are blatantly ignoring another country's laws to blow them to smithereens and kill them. This man is trying to deceive us and pretend that laws don't exist, or that these people are criminals or bad people, when it's clearly well known by multiple council authorities in black and white that there are these laws. Same with, it's a miracle that we've just won that Dartmoor campaign. But like wild camping on Dartmoor, I said that, many councils have installed benches for recreational purposes, recreational benches, and they're also medical rights, which has now been, that order's been corrected. Why are these local councils know about Town and Country Planning Acts? Service of notices, access to property, when there's a legal requirement to deliver notices. I've had a letter delivered by the court, but I haven't been able to read it yet because I've been ill, under stress. So I haven't received that message, although they've delivered it to the property, but I haven't actually received it myself, but that's a medical right. You can claim medical, but when there's the right to petition, you can claim medical rights. But that's still nothing to do with prosecuting the petitioners, the activists, the campaigners.